So he goes cross-handed under the arm, and like a full shoulder turn.
Is that anchoring?
I think if anyone saw it, they wouldn't try to call a penalty on him, I don't think.
Jordan, it's good to see you. I have a technical question for you.
Yeah.
How do you hit that nippy scooter that you're known for?
Yeah.
What's the format on that?
So, I think I talked to Phil Mickelson back in the day about it, and he described it really well. He was like, other people chip, and like you and I and a few others, that you cover cut it. Like
Okay.
it's like a cover cut. So in order to hit it, like there's the lofted version, there's the lower one, and in general, you have to be putting cut spin on it. You can't really hit it with draw spin. So,
And I'm talking about the lower one.
The lower one.
That's the intriguing one for me.
The lower one, I still have the face open.
Okay.
And then my weight's forward, probably about 70-30 on the front foot. And you can kind of go with a little wider stance if you want it to get a little lower to the ground earlier. That's kind of the more fun way to hit it. And then for me, it's all about the club's always outside the hands.
Okay.
So you still want to rotate with it, rotate your body a bit, but that club is outside the hands, and then it's outside the hands again. You just have to be committed to taking a real solid divot. It's not going to go far because you're so de-lofted, so it stays low, but the swing speed's what generates the spin.
Okay.
So for me, like this should be a decent sized divot for this. I chunked it a smidge so it didn't have the spin, but
There you go.
I'll hit another one.
All right, I got like 6
But you got to
minutes on
keep
the-
driving the hands.
It's a good question. You got a detailed answer.
That's more of it, which
Yeah.
it won't show as much because of we're hitting down the hill, but that second hop had the grab.
Yeah.
If you're hitting uphill,
Do you play it differently on this type of grass versus on Bermuda?
I don't change my 60 degrees pretty much all that I chip with. I use a 52 if I'm running it across the green or some bump shots, but I don't even change the bounce on my 60 week to week. Some guys do. Because I'm driving ball first into the ground so much, the only concern with almost zero bounce 60 is just a thick bunker, just because it can get too thick. But on here, the bigger the divot, it is what it is. The club either gets more stuck in the ground or it just takes a bigger pelt. This plays right now more similar to some of the bent grass we see later in the year. It's got some give to it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Bermuda, obviously, into the grain. I grew up on into the grain Bermuda. So there's no other real way to chip. It's the easiest way to chip is get on top of the ball with a little cut spin and use spin as your guide, because you just can't get height. You can't use the bounce. You can use bounce out here. You can't use bounce into the grain on Bermuda. It just, you duff it. So
That's why I putt from everywhere.
yeah, well, there you go. Yeah,
I
you
just
can putt it
can't
too.
chip.
And then, if you wanted to, you got to fly it a little further. I got the ball in the middle of the stance. The weight's a little more middle, but it's still that significant cut motion. And then that's kind of cutting into the hill a little, and it checks up.
That thing just second bounce. That's what.
So nice.
That's the higher
Yeah.
one. It's all where your weight is, right?
No,
Yeah,
the
I've
lower
seen-
one is the one I'm always curious
The
about.
lower one's
Yeah.
really fun, because
It's
the lower
fun.
one, when you're playing with ridges and stuff,
Yes.
it's like the crowd's like, sit, oh, when it checks up.
Yeah.
That's like the really cool.
We know, you said this to me in Hawaii, that the casual fans love the spin, especially when it spins back. Ooh, look at that.
for sure. And like, bunker shots that spin back. Those are always fun and risky. But
Do you measure anything when it comes to your short game in terms of like angle of attack, spin, or any of that, or you all feel?
not really. And I think the most important thing that I've gotten caught up with when I've struggled chipping is trying to make it too much like the golf swing. And I mean, it just really isn't. I mean, until you get to call it 40 yards with a more standard shot, they're all going to be very different. The club's going to be in a different place. Your attack angle, your swing direction, they're all going to change a little bit. But most importantly for me is I need that swing direction pretty far to the left, always. So, the problem with that is people will just kind of chop, and then you're in trouble. So it's still got some rotation, but then that swing direction's created by that club being over top the hands, right? So I can get over here, but that's not going to help me with the swing direction. It's staying in it and then pitching that over the hands, and then you can do whatever you want from there, essentially. Even these little bank shots right here, feet are I'm 70-30, feet are more together, face is more square. It's still going to be a little bit of a cut motion, just to kind of skip up.
God, that
When was the last time you like
ticklish and delightful there.
flubbed a chip
I mean,
in competition?
probably in the last few events at some point. Yeah, it may not have been as noticeable as some, but yeah, I mean, it's, it happens.
What happens to make that happen?
For me, it's typically if I have too long of a range of motion for the shot, so it's deceleration. So as long as I keep it real compact and real aggressive, like I was just saying, like you need speed to create the spin, but the speed also keeps you together. The second I take it back too far, and then I'm like, oh no, this is gonna fly, you know, this pin that I'm trying to hit it at, you decel and nothing good happens. So, and then, so what I'll do practicing, so if I'm hitting to that back right pin, you know, maybe the most beneficial practice I could do is I'd try to hit it within, you know, three to 5 feet with 3 different trajectories. So, you know, my first one is playing I've got to go to it's a back pin on a green, kind of similar to this. I'll probably play this shot here too. There's kind of a lower one that lands in that first section.
And you pretty much always chip with the 60?
Pretty much always chip with the 60.
Love a wand.
Has that been like throughout your entire playing career?
Yeah, so I used to play 60-52 back in junior golf and college because I used an extra club at the top of the bag. And so I just learned I didn't really ever use a 56. So I only used a 56 when I came on tour because you couldn't get away with hitting 100-yard 52s as some of the pins that we have. You just needed more spin and stuff. And so that's when I put it in, but I had never practiced chipping with it. So the only times I use a 56 that's not a full shot is if I have a club that, if I'm in like the rocks or something, I'm okay. It's like, I don't want to mess up my 60. I don't want to mess up my 52.
Lamb.
It's my sacrificial lamb. So the second one would be to try to pitch it right in the valley, which is more of that kind of mid one that I was saying. Right there in the valley. And then the last one is like if you go flop shot, which I could do there to this first pin, you know, then the motion changes a lot. So on these, I'm in more of my golf posture. I got less bend in my knees, more kind of like bend from the waist. But then like a bunker shot, when you're gonna flop it, I'm sitting back with my knees bent because it's gonna get that flatter angle for more of a chop motion, so that wasn't what I was looking for, but same kind of motion.
Yeah.
Jordan, this is all pretty technical. How do you balance, like, you know, and obviously you're explaining it for our benefit, but how do you balance like being technical, mechanical versus just kind of seeing it and being, I don't know, an artist?
I'm just explaining the technical side, and I'm not great at it because I had to have it explained to me. I was hitting these shots because on that end of the grade Bermuda, that's how I had to hit them.
Right.
And then, you know, I work with Cameron and he helps me develop a few other shots. And you know, this whole knees bend, like I could hit a flop shot from the same place I was at, but it's going to be less consistent. He's like, bend your knees, you can flick this thing over your shoulder. And it's like so foreign compared to how you'd swing a full swing.
Yeah.
But that's the best way to produce the most consistent results you can there. So to answer your question, like it's all feel to me. I'm just trying to explain it the best I can.
For you normies.
Well, in your hiatus, any new shots in the bag? Anything you've been working on, cooking up at home?
You know, the one shot that kind of sucks still is the real open-faced flick out of the sand.
Sure.
I can still feel that a little in the
wrist. You feel it?
Yeah, in the wrist. But I've worked it a lot because I want to work through some of it, especially in the last month or so. Other than that, no. I think I didn't get a ton of chipping work. I got a lot of chipping work in because I could chip and putt before I was cleared to swing, and it was nice out. But then once the winter hit, like we had a tough winter the last month or so in Dallas. All the tarps were on the green, so I'm catching up on my chipping work.
Sure.
But no, they change a lot. The shots change some, especially out of the rough. That's the only time where I'll change my motion week to week. Out here, there's not a ton of rough. A lot of it can be done without much hinge. You can do a lot of kind of, sitting down right here. You don't want a lot of hinge. You can kind of just get weight forward, get an open face, and kind of just use a nice, easy little motion. Anybody can do that, and that's the way they should chip out of most of their shots. You're not going to be able to hit the low, long spinner doing that necessarily, but when you get to, you know, some of that grass like at Muirfield Village or US Open and stuff, then you have to start gaining more speed. So you get away with some of those shots, and a lot of the times you gotta hit more explosions.
Anything like full swing wise you've been working on? Like different ball flights?
Yeah,
or?
so the beauty of not being able to touch a club for so long was, you know, I had a lot of bad habits I was getting into, and it allowed me to, I like to call it wet concrete, just kind of start over, be able to mold something quickly and have it get in. So I spent, so, you know, we attacked, I went in week maybe 4 to Cameron just to start having conversations. Like, what's the plan going forward? You know, where am I at? I don't know if I'll never know if this was preventing anything or causing any bad habits. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm working on getting kind of back to the hand height and hand depth that I've had when I was younger. My hands had kind of traveled on and gotten higher, making the swing longer, but also changing the hand path into the downswing a lot. So that was pretty challenging work,
Yeah.
especially because I didn't start it like that long ago. And I had to, it was, you know, Tiger talks about his least favorite drill was always the paused rep that he'd do.
Yeah.
And then come down, you know, there's a ton of that, ton of just working backswing, do backswing for 4 weeks, get it in, then get into downswing stuff, and then get into playing. So I'm just into the playing stuff. So to answer your question, yes, like, to me it feels major. Will it look major? I don't know. I mean, I see the difference.
Are you bringing the pre-shot rehearsal back in 2025?
No, it'll just be behind the ball and stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing it a lot.
I mean, that's kind of breaking news.
Well, this
I'm
fall,
wondering
yeah,
that.
this fall and winter, I was doing it quite a bit just because it was hard for me to do it without doing the rehearsal.
Yeah.
So if I'm on a range, I may do one every 5 shots just to exaggerate it. It's all for exaggeration,
Sure.
right? And but fortunately, when I'm not doing a rehearsal, I am more outwardly focused, which is where I need to be. So
Hell yeah.
I feel good enough about getting the moves that we're trying to do in. Right now, it's just kind of the ball's on the hanging lie on number 6, and you got trouble here. And I've hit a lot of balls off mats in the last 3 months. It's like, let's go ahead and get out there and figure out where the face is and get to playing. So.
Well, have you watched any good movies, shows, books? Hit us. One of each.
Yeah, I read a lot of books, but they're all the books that Sully's reading. Let's see,
What are those
movies.
books?
He said
I mean-
literally that he didn't read a book last year.
Oh, Good Night Moon. Like
Oh,
that's what he's saying.
No,
like,
no, I'm talking kid books.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah,
Do you think
corduroy.
do you think you could author a kid's book?
At this point, I could probably make one up pretty good. Yeah,
That would be
I kind of
sweet.
do because I end up at some point, you know, here and there you skip some
You're
pages.
just going off script.
So you go a
Yeah.
little rogue, but now I get caught. My 3-year-old will catch me. He knows. But no, I mean, right when I had the surgery, that next weekend was the start of college football season.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just watched a lot of football. At week, I couldn't grip a putter the way I want to grip it until week 8. So it took 8 weeks just to get, because I'm in like a supination in my left hand, which was like the worst way to stretch it. I had an arm cast for, I don't remember how long, and then a different cast. And so it was 8 weeks till I could grip it normally. And then it was another probably at 10 and a half, 11 weeks, I was hitting, I could swing, but I could hit Nerf balls. Because what hurt was the ball contact. It wasn't the ground because I could chip. But once I got above like 40 yards, ball contact, it was
And what did that feel like? Like a foul ball?
yeah, it would be, yeah.
Just
It would-
stingy?
Yeah, stingy.
Okay.
How long had you had the wrist bugging you? Like,
This happened in May of 23. So I was in the pool with my son, and I was going back and forth on the first step, and then something just kind of like, something happened, and I couldn't move it. So I didn't play the Byron Nelson the next week, or that week, and I just iced it and got through it, and then it happened again in October, and then I just had a bunch of incidents. It started to happen every couple days last year. Towards the end of the year, I was like, okay, I think my breaking point was I was holding, it never happened swinging, but it would happen off the course. But we had bad weather at Troon this year on Saturday, finishing up, and it popped out when I was holding the umbrella on 17. So I'm walking to 18, like, come on, pop back in, because I wouldn't have been able to grip the club.
yeah.
I would have had
What
to
would
take
you
my
have
grip
done?
about this week, with the wind in. I would have had to line up in the middle of the ocean to slice something back to try and get it in 5 or 6 to just be done with the round. And I got it in right before the tee ball and I hit. So that's when I was like, all right, I think we should probably do something about this now.
Dad-related injuries, they're hot in the streets, man. It can happen.
Yeah. But anyway, I went through a good process figuring out how to do it. I started rehab literally day 2 there. We stayed in Colorado, did rehab there for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I just feel very grateful. I had great teams at home. I had a great hand specialist and physios at home, and I just stayed the course. And I didn't miss it at all because I couldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're in a cat, it wasn't like.
Was it nice to have a timeout a little bit in a way?
It was great. Yeah. Well, and it was just like, I wasn't playing well for a while, and I was just grinding through it. I didn't know if it was affecting it or not, but there wasn't a reason to stop. And so it was just, I just mentally just rested. It was like, okay, I can't do anything, so I can't try to force fixing anything. And then it made me have to like think and go about a very patient process. Like I mentioned, not only of this, like letting this get where it needs to get, but with Cameron, big credit to him. He's like, and we're picking ball counts, we're tracking everything. I have a journal I wrote down every day since I started hitting putts. So it was a new experience for me where I had to be super patient, but it's been awesome. I'm glad to be back out, and whether it takes a week or a year to feel like I got everything back, I know that it will be. So I'm pumped.
How many Texas games did you go to?
I went to 3.
Did you go to the Michigan game?
No, because it was like the week after surgery. I went to Georgia, and then I went to the Clemson game and I was actually 1-2. They only had 3 losses. I went 1-2 this year. But yeah, I didn't go. I would have gone to like Texas OU, a lot of these other ones early in the season, but I didn't want to get bumped.
Well, you can hold the Michigan game over.
That's right.
Over Michael's head, right?
They had just won, so he's like, and then they beat Ohio State, so really he's like,
Who cares? Transitive property.
Yeah, exactly.
So, sorry, not to change gears, but I'm just curious. Like, you're not able to play golf. That's what your days, probably for the last, 30 years been centered around. Any hobbies, anything that you did with your time? Like, how'd you center your day? If you don't have practice, that is kind of the center of gravity.
Yeah, so it kind of just depended on what month it was, right? So the first month we were in Colorado, and it was beautiful, and we'd go on hikes. We had our dog out there. He'd go in the river, and I just spent a lot of time outside with the kids, and I couldn't do a whole lot with them the first 2 months, but we were just always around, and I got some really good quality time, and you kind of get in the swing of things here, and you end up at a 9 to 5, and but it was nice to kind of have that time with the family. So a lot of hiking there. Came home, not much to be honest. I really was just. That was the longest I've been in Dallas at our house in like a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah. My daughter was turned 1 like a few weeks after. So just there's huge changes there, which is really fun to be a part of, like every day of it. And my son being 3 now, it's just he's like a little kid. He hit a lot of golf balls. I went to the golf course even if I wasn't practicing. Bring him. And he'd just bust some golf balls, and we'd have dinner and go home. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
What's your strategy with your son as far as golf? Like just let him.
Yeah.
No,
it's a good question. Yeah. So this is how he hits it. He goes arm lock under because the first shots he ever hit were with my clubs, and he couldn't hold them. So he goes cross-handed under the arm, like a full shoulder turn. And he makes great contact, and then I'm like, Sammy, you can hit it so much further, huh?
Is that anchoring?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, son. I'm gonna have to assess it.
I don't think if anyone saw it, they wouldn't try to call a penalty on him. I don't think. But he makes like great contact with it. He did it last year at Augusta at the par 3 and hit a couple good shots. But I go up and I'm like, Sammy, can I help you with your grip? You can hit it so much further. Like, you'll be able to hit it so far. And he's just tells me no. He's pretty much, I don't know what I'm talking about.
But is he asking you to go out?
Yeah, he wants. Like today, I was like, hey, I got to go. I'm going to the course today. I'm going to work. And he goes, I want to go with you every day. And he could for a while at home. Like I'd take him to the gym or to practice or whatever, and so now it's even harder because
Yeah.
he's like, why can't I?
Are you still doing the RV?
No,
No. Okay.
we didn't last year either, but with 2 kids, it's just.
Yeah, that would.
But like Jason does it sometimes with like 5, so it's possible.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it, and maybe I'll do it again later on when kids are in school and stuff, and it's more me. But
Randy's a big RV
the RV
guy.
life,
Love
the
RV.
RV life is fantastic. Same bed every week,
Yeah,
same
they're
stuff.
joking. I don't fit in them.
Oh man,
We
You fit
did
in
one
ours.
up the coast from LA all the way up to San Francisco. What was that, like 5 years ago?
Yeah.
The slide out broke.
Yeah, we had some
When we were in big surf, so
no.
the slide out's just.
So you
go
were
around
real
a corner.
tight.
You go around a
You
corner.
were
It was like
real-
starting to slide out into
Oh
traffic.
no,
Yeah,
it broke in the way that it was
Yeah.
sliding out. That's not good.
that was long ago. We also got stuck at the Stanford parking lot. Anyway.
Were you guys staying on like on site at places, or were you?
It depended on, like, it was the greatest setup. It's the greatest setup ever at Augusta
Yeah.
because you're literally across the street. And then our best one we ever had was probably the LACC Open. We were on LA South.
Okay.
And like that was going to be a hard week to rent a house. You're in like Beverly Hills. No one's going to rent their house. If they do, that's
You just
an
walk over that
ungodly
little
amount of money.
pedestrian bridge there.
And we just right over, yeah. I mean, you could drive your car, you could just walk in. It was awesome. For the brief time I was there, it was great.
When we were talking football, I mean, the Super Bowl coming
Yeah.
up. What,
Anybody but the Eagles, baby.
anybody but the
Anybody
Eagles. All right. All right.
Cowboys fan. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of unrelated question, but one we were discussing, curious about. What's your favorite childhood Masters memory? What was your favorite Masters to watch as a kid, and
Just
why?
Tiger's putt over DeMarco that hung on the lip.
Yeah.
Or sorry, his chip that
Chip.
hung on the lip. That was my favorite Masters memory. Phil making it to win his first one. I remember watching that. And then honestly, I was a rookie actually, but Adam winning in the rain, wasn't he playing with Leash on 18 and he made a putt and Leash like celebrated as hard as Adam did, and then
It's a great
Cabrera
picture.
came in and hit the stripe to like 4 feet, and then Adam birdie 10, and Adam was my favorite player growing up, so that was awesome to watch, even though that wasn't childhood, but yeah, Tiger, was that 04?
05.
05.
Any other Tiger shot generally that you would put in your pantheon?
How much time do we?
No, just one.
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly.
one that sticks out to you.
Tiger shot that sticks out to me. The one that slice he hit, was that at Olympic or where was that?
Olympia Fields.
Was it Olympia Fields? The one around the tree?
Yeah. 03
That
Open.
one's pretty epic because, I mean, it's just one of those where you could see the ball, travel. That one's pretty good. What's yours?
Honestly, that bunker shot at the Canadian Open.
Oh
With, was that 2-iron?
2 or 3 iron.
So funny. You said bunker shot, and I was like, oh, he's going to say Hazeltine one. Oh, no. Tiger has another one.
No, when they show that over, they had that blimp shot of it,
Yeah.
and he barely
Yep.
clears it, and it goes like 5 feet. I think about that shot more than I realized, maybe.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, he's.
I got a last
hard to
question.
choose.
What's the last shot you can remember out here on tour that just made you like, holy sh**?
That I hit.
Or anybody else, honestly.
Well, now I have to choose somebody else.
It would be
One of
sweet.
each.
Either
One of
like
each.
One of each.
Yeah,
One of
either
each.
like yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been out here. The last shot that I surprised myself on, which was like maybe one of the better short game shots I've ever hit, was 2 years ago in Phoenix. I was in the right bunker on 17 to the Saturday pin, and I hit, it must have been, maybe it was like 65, 70 yards total. And, you're short, you're in that bunker, or you have, longs of water. And I hit this nipper out of the bunker that went to like, like that. And I hit it, and right when I struck it, I was like, oh my. It's like, that's what you're trying to do, but in the back of your head, you're like, well, whatever happens, happens. And I struck it, I'm like, wow, that's gonna be good. And then it does exactly what you want it to do, checks on top of the ridge and trickles down. Man, there's been so many great shots. I think of like Nick Taylor's putt to win his home Open comes to
Yeah.
mind, a couple years ago.
That's a tough one.
But anybody you're playing with, like
It doesn't
firsthand.
have to be the best shot.
I know.
Just one that's like, God, that sounded different, or I just don't know how they made the ball do.
Or I don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played a lot of golf with Scotty, especially lately, just not like more recently, but in the last couple years at home. And, you know, just some of these like 3-iron shots that'll hit where it's just like, you're sitting there like, okay, I'm going for the par. I hope I hit the green on the par 5 and 2. And I mean, it just was never going to miss the green. It's just like some of that when he's that on,
Especially
you know,
when
his
his
stats
feet-
are what as good
his
as
feet are going
Tiger's
everywhere.
ball striking's ever been, if not better. And to watch it firsthand, you're just like, man, all right, this is going to be hard to beat. So it's more of a collective of some of those shots in a row where you're like, that shot was supposed to be harder than that.
Yeah.
And when you stood over it, I knew it was going to be launching there somehow, and it did. It's like, you know, the game plays with you a little mentally sometimes where you're like, I feel good, but, you know, I'm going to err a little here. It just doesn't seem, he's like, oh, I'll just do it again.
What was the first time you ever played Pebble?
It would have been 2013 when I got an exemption here, and that would have been the first time I played it. And we stayed in a house on the course, and Michael came with me, and we got here early, and it was during those championship games, and we were running out, and we were chipping on 2 green whenever the game wasn't on, halftime and stuff. Like, we kind of snuck on and just started. We just did everything around 2 green. That would have been technically the first time I was on the course. But I've played it. I've gone off first off 3 times, in once with my dad and brother, and then once with Jay and Jordan, and that's as good as it gets, is going first off out. And we went on a trip with my dad and brother and played it, and neither one of it had played it, and they'd been here a ton for the U.S. Open and this tournament and whatever. And that was pretty epic. That was probably the most memorable round here.
Jordan, it's good to see you.
Good to see you back.
Good to see you back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Play well this week.
Appreciate it.